Story 1. The Hide-and-Seek Clown. A childhood game turned nightmare. It was supposed to be an ordinary night, a night of laughter, games, and childhood memories. But for one family, a simple game of hide-and-seek would turn into something far darker. Something that would haunt them forever, Dad. It was early October. 4 siblings, Jess, Mike, Eli, and our storyteller were visiting their mother's small apartment, tucked away in one of the sketchiest parts of town. The kind of place where streetlights flickered and shadows seemed to breathe. That night, after the sun dipped behind the alleyways, they decided to play hide-and-seek with the neighborhood kids. A harmless game, right? At 9 p.m., they all ran into the night laughing, not knowing what was waiting for them in the darkness. The storyteller and his sister Jess hid near the back alley, by the overflowing garbage bins. It was silent, too silent. And that's when they saw at the end of the alley stood a tall figure, motionless under the streetlight. The light was too dim to see the face, but the colorful afro wig said it all. It was a clown. Not a happy one, not a performer, but something else. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just watched them. The siblings froze in fear before slowly backing away. When they finally reached their brothers, they turned to show them what they saw, and their hearts nearly stopped. The clown was closer now. Still staring. Still waving. Its face was painted black, hiding everything except the eyes. Cold, empty eyes that seemed to pierce through the dark. Before they could react, another clown appeared. Green hair, longer legs, even taller. The kids ran, screaming, back to the safety of their homes. But the nightmare wasn't over. That same night, long after everyone had fallen asleep, the storyteller woke up to a sound, tapping on the second-story window. When he lifted the blinds, his blood turned cold. There it was, the same clown, staring, smiling. And before he could scream, it vanished. That night changed everything. They never played hide-and-seek again. And to this day, no one knows who those clowns were, or how one of them climbed to a second-floor window. Some games aren't meant to be played in the dark. Story 2. The Abandoned House Across the Street. There are some houses you just know to stay away from. Broken windows, peeling paint, dead silence. They almost seem to warn you, don't come closer. This story comes from a boy who was only 11 when he learned that some houses. Watch back. He went to a small middle school that sat right across the street from an old, run-down house. The kind of place that looked forgotten by time, overgrown yard, shattered windows, and shadows that seemed to move on their own. Every day, he and his friends walked by that house after school. They'd laugh, joke, even tease him for being scared of it. But unlike them, he could feel something wrong. Then came October. The air got colder. The nights came sooner. And one afternoon, as he walked home alone, he felt eyes on him. He turned, and there, behind the dusty window of that old house, was a figure, perfectly still. Watching him, he froze, then hurried home. Maybe it was just his imagination, right? But the next day, and the day after that, the same figure appeared. Same window. Same stare. When he told his friends, they laughed it off, said maybe it was someone trying to spook him before Halloween. So he tried to believe that. Until one Friday afternoon changed everything. That day, the figure wasn't in the window. It was on the porch, tall, motionless, watching. The moment he walked past, it moved, fast, running straight at him. He screamed, dropped his bag, and sprinted down the street. his heart pounding so hard he could barely breathe. The man was shouting nonsense, his voice wild, his footsteps getting closer and closer. Desperate, the boy ducked into an alley and hid behind a dumpster, holding his breath. Trying not to make a sound, he could hear him right there, breathing, muttering, pacing. And then, silence. Moments later, the footsteps faded away. When he finally got home, he burst into tears and told his parents everything. The police arrived, and when they investigated the house, Story 3. The white-robed figure in the woods. Some stories remind you that darkness isn't always empty, that even silence can watch you back. This story takes us to a quiet village in Poland, a place where nights are calm, streets are empty, and the only sound you hear is the wind through the trees. The storyteller was just out on her usual evening walk with her dog, Susie. The road she loved most was peaceful, a narrow path between a forest on one side and a horse stable on the other. Just 10 minutes of solitude and the crunch of leaves under her feet. But that night, something was different. The air was colder, the silence heavier, and Susie, who never feared anything, suddenly froze. The dog began to bark, pulling hard on the leash, growling at the darkness ahead. The girl looked toward the trees, trying to see what had made her dog so afraid. And that's when she saw it. A man, kneeling behind the old stable. At first, she thought it was a shadow, a trick of the light. But no, he was real. Dressed completely in white robes, motionless, facing her direction. He didn't hide. He didn't move. He just knelt there. Watching, her blood went cold. Susie barked even louder, almost pulling her forward, but she refused to move closer. She grabbed her dog's harness and walked away quickly, heart pounding with every step. By the time she reached the church nearby, she saw people standing outside, talking. For a moment, she thought about telling them what she saw, but how do you even explain something like that? A man in white robes kneeling in the dark? So she said nothing and went home. That night, she barely slept. Then, around midnight, sirens. Dozens of them. Fire trucks, police. The sound echoed through the village. The next morning, she found out what happened. The priest's old stable, the same one where she saw that figure, had burned to the ground. People said it must have been teenagers pulling a Halloween prank. But she knew better. That calm, silent figure she saw wasn't laughing. He wasn't playing. He was waiting, and the fire didn't start until hours after she saw him, meaning whatever he was doing there, he stayed, still, silent, for hours in the dark. And the question that still keeps her awake, was he alone? Story 4. The figure at the pumpkin patch. Pumpkin patches are supposed to be fun. Laughter, apple cider, warm lights, and kids running around with their parents. But for one group of friends, their trip to a pumpkin patch turned into something they'll never forget. It was late October, golden leaves on the ground, crisp air, perfect for photos. They went right after school, eager to pick the biggest pumpkins they could find. One of them, Kevin, pointed to the far end of the patch, where the trees began. "The biggest ones are back there," he said with a grin. So they went. The deeper they walked, the quieter it got. The families and chatter faded away behind them. The laughter disappeared, replaced by the rustling of dry leaves and the whisper of the wind. That's when he saw it. A figure standing behind the last row of pumpkins. At first glance, it looked like a scarecrow, arms out, wearing a hat, completely still. But then, the hat moved, slightly, like someone was breathing under it. He whispered, "Do you guys see that?" Kevin laughed. "Relax, man. It's just decoration." But something inside him said otherwise. As they turned to leave, he felt it. That creeping instinct, like eyes on the back of your neck. He looked over his shoulder. The figure was closer. He blinked, and it was gone. They started walking faster toward the stand to pay for their pumpkins. The sun was setting now, and the shadows stretched long across the rows. That's when he heard it crack. A branch breaking behind them. He turned. The figure was there again, 10 feet away. No arms stretched this time. Just standing, watching. Kevin finally noticed and froze. The figure tilted its head, slow, unnatural. And then, without taking a single step, it moved forward, not walking. They ran. Pumpkins bouncing in the wagon, footsteps chasing them through the crunching leaves. But the sound behind them didn't match human movement. It was too smooth, too fast. When they reached the main area, everything was normal again. Families laughing, kids eating candy apples. He turned to look back, and there it was, standing at the edge of the patch, still, watching. He never saw it again. But days later, a local news site reported multiple sightings of a strange, silent figure near that same patch. No one ever found out who or what it was, but every October since, he says the same thing. When the leaves fall, he still feels like he's being watched. Asterisk, some stories end when the lights turn on, but the real ones follow you into the dark. If your heart's still racing, and you want more untold scary truths, then don't just scroll away. Subscribe to Untold Scary Truths, where silence speaks, and every shadow hides a story.